Parents refused to help with my medical bills, but secretly invested $500,000 in my husband's cheating ex-wife's business. They called me mentally unstable when I confronted them. I am 34 years old and have been married to my husband, Mike, for 4 years. We dated for 2 years before tying the knot, and I really thought I knew everything about his past. That included his previous marriage to Lisa, which ended a few years before we met. I knew it had been messy. Mike was always upfront about the details. Lisa had cheated on him multiple times, and the last affair was with the man she's now married to. They did not have any kids, so the divorce was relatively straightforward. In fact, Mike had even given her more than what was legally required, just to get the whole thing over with and move on. I thought that chapter of his life was long closed. But life has a funny way of proving you wrong, sometimes in the most painful and unexpected ways. My parents had loved Mike from day one. They always sang his praises, talking about how hardworking and dependable he was, how well he treated me, and what a responsible man he seemed to be. They were so supportive of our relationship that they helped pay for our wedding and even contributed generously toward the down payment for our first house together. Because of all that, what I recently discovered felt like a betrayal on an entirely different level. Last year, I was diagnosed with a chronic illness. It was a huge shock, and coping with it has been one of the hardest things I have ever gone through. I needed multiple surgeries, and even with health insurance, the medical bills were staggering. On top of that, I had to take unpaid leave from my teaching job to recover, which left us in a tough financial situation. Mike works as a project manager in construction, which pays well enough under normal circumstances. But his income alone was nowhere near enough to cover our mortgage, day-to-day expenses, and my mounting medical bills. Feeling desperate, I turned to my parents for help. They are quite well off. They own a few successful businesses. So I thought they might be able to lend me a hand temporarily, just until I could get back on my feet. When I approached them, though, their response shocked me. They claimed they were facing financial difficulties themselves, and could only give me $500. That was it. I was stunned. I knew their businesses were doing fine. They had not mentioned anything about struggling before. But I also did not want to push too hard or seem ungrateful. Maybe they had some private financial concerns they were not comfortable sharing. I thanked them for the $500 and left it at that. But to make ends meet, I had to take on a second job as an online tutor as soon as I was well enough to work again. It was grueling, teaching full-time during the day and then tutoring late into the night. It took a serious toll on my recovery, but we did not have any other choice. Mike even offered to take on additional projects at work, but his job is already physically demanding, and I could not bear the thought of him pushing himself to the point of exhaustion. Then, the truth came out, completely by accident. Last week, my younger sister, Jessica, called me. We were just catching up when she casually mentioned that our parents had been helping Lisa. Yes, that Lisa. With her new business. At first, I thought I had misheard her. But when I asked her to clarify, she explained that Mom and Dad had been financially supporting Lisa, helping her open a yoga studio. I was stunned into silence. Jessica must have realized something was off because she paused, then apologized profusely when she understood I had no idea. She even sent me screenshots from social media that showed my parents at Lisa's grand opening, proudly tagged as her angel investors. I was absolutely floored. The same parents who claimed they could only give me $500 toward my medical bills had secretly invested in my husband's ex-wife's business. The same woman who had cheated on him and shattered his trust. The next few days were a blur. I could barely eat or sleep as I tried to make sense of it all. I kept replaying every interaction I had with my parents over the past year, wondering if there were signs I had missed or subtle hints I had overlooked. Their betrayal felt like a knife to the chest. When I finally told Mike, he was just as shocked and furious as I was. He has had zero contact with Lisa since their divorce and could not wrap his head around why my parents would go behind our backs like this. I knew I could not let this go unanswered. So, I decided to confront my parents in person. Every month, Mike and I host a Sunday family dinner, and I figured that was the best time to bring it up. I thought maybe, if they saw how deeply their actions had hurt me, they would realize the extent of the damage they had caused. That Sunday, with my parents, Jessica, and her husband all seated around the table, I took a deep breath and decided to approach it calmly. I need to ask you something, I started, trying to keep my voice steady. Why are you financially supporting Lisa's yoga studio? And why did you feel the need to keep it a secret from me? My mom did not even hesitate. She looked me straight in the eye and, without a hint of remorse, said something that made my heart sink. Lisa has always been like a daughter to us, she said proudly. Even after the divorce, we stayed close. We formed a strong bond with her when she was married to Mike, and we were not going to let that go just because things ended between them. And then my mom said they just wanted to help Lisa pursue her dream of opening a yoga studio. I sat there, stunned, listening to my own mother speak about Lisa like she was some beloved family member. Meanwhile, it felt like my pain and struggles were completely invisible to her. Then my dad chimed in, trying to justify their actions. He said Lisa had shown real entrepreneurial spirit and had come to them with a solid business plan. According to him, it was simply a good investment. But what he said next made my blood run cold. He actually suggested that helping me with my medical bills would have been money down the drain. He went on to imply that I should have been better prepared for emergencies and that I should consider natural healing instead of conventional treatments. He even said I should take yoga classes at Lisa's studio as part of my recovery. I could barely process what I was hearing. It felt like he was blaming me for getting sick, as though my illness was some kind of personal failing, and to suggest that supporting Lisa's business was somehow more valuable than helping their own daughter, it was beyond hurtful. I could not hold it in anymore. All the pain and frustration I had bottled up over the past few days came spilling out. I told them how hard things had been for me, how I had been working 2 jobs, skipping treatments because we could not afford them, and struggling just to get through each day. I poured out how deeply betrayed I felt that they had chosen to support Lisa, a woman who had hurt Mike so deeply, instead of their own child. My mom rolled her eyes. She said I was being dramatic and needed to calm down. According to her, Lisa might have made mistakes in the past, but she had grown into a resilient businesswoman. Then she dropped another dagger, saying my anger was probably rooted in jealousy over Mike's past marriage. My dad backed her up, saying their decision to support Lisa was strictly business and had nothing to do with family. He accused me of acting childish and blowing things out of proportion. That was the breaking point. I stood up, shaking with anger, and told them they were no longer welcome in my home. They looked shocked, as though they could not believe I was serious. My dad muttered something under his breath about me being ungrateful as they gathered their things and left in a huff. After they were gone, Jessica, who had stayed silent through the whole argument, burst into tears. She apologized over and over, saying she had no idea how much it would hurt me when she mentioned Lisa. Her husband, looking like he wanted to disappear, mumbled that they should probably leave too. Once everyone was gone, Mike and I sat down on the couch, completely drained. He kept saying he felt guilty, like somehow all of this was his fault. I reassured him over and over that it was not. This was entirely on my parents. They were the ones who had betrayed me, not him. We talked for hours that night, trying to figure out how to move forward. We agreed we needed to set firm boundaries with my parents, maybe even cut contact for a while until we could both heal from this. We agreed to cut contact with my parents for a while. I knew I could not trust them anymore, but today I find myself feeling uncertain. My phone has been blowing up with messages from family members. Some are saying I overreacted, while others are firmly on my side. My parents even sent me a long email. They expressed their disappointment in what they called my immature behavior and said they would not consider reconciliation until I apologized. Their words gave me pause for the first time since the confrontation. Had I been too harsh? Could it really be that they thought they were just helping Lisa out of kindness? I feel completely conflicted. On one hand, the betrayal still stings. It is impossible to ignore. But on the other hand, I cannot help but wonder if I was wrong to react the way I did. Should I have tried harder to understand their perspective? Was I too emotional in the moment? Something about their email feels cryptic, like there is more they are not telling me. But then again, is it my fault if they chose not to explain themselves better? I do not know what to think anymore. Am I being unreasonable, or was I justified in feeling hurt by their actions? First, thank you to everyone who reached out with advice and support. Reading through the comments made me feel less alone in this mess. It has given me a lot to think about as I figure out the next steps. The last 2 days have been nothing short of overwhelming. I never expected so much to happen so quickly after my initial post. Shortly after I shared my story, I got an unexpected message from Lisa, on Facebook, of all places. Apparently, my parents had gone straight to her after our confrontation and told her everything. The message she sent was, well, let's just say it was dripping with concern, though it felt more like thinly veiled mockery. She claimed she wanted to clear the air between us. She wrote that she had no idea about my medical struggles and that she was so sorry I had gone through all of that. But then came the kicker. She suggested I come take a month of free yoga classes at her studio for stress relief, as if her yoga classes were going to magically cure all my problems. Knowing what my sister had told me, that my parents regularly discussed my health with Lisa at the studio, it was clear her sympathy was as fake as it gets. I blocked her without even bothering to respond. But the bigger shock came yesterday. Out of the blue, my aunt, my mom's sister, called me. She sounded urgent, like there was something she had been holding back for a while. She sounded hesitant, but also genuinely worried. My aunt explained that she had been following the situation through the family grapevine and felt like she needed to come forward with something she had been keeping to herself. Apparently, my parents' relationship with Lisa runs even deeper than I could have imagined. For years, they have been celebrating holidays with her and her new husband, inviting them to family events, and even going on vacations together. One of those trips happened just last summer. It was the same vacation my parents told me they could not take with us because they were too swamped with business. My aunt admitted that she had always found the situation uncomfortable. She said it felt like my parents had adopted Lisa as their replacement daughter while keeping me at arm's length. She apologized for not telling me sooner, confessing that she was afraid of causing drama within the family. My parents, she said, have been treating her coldly every time she tries to question them about their behavior. Then, she dropped another bombshell. She sent me photos from several family gatherings, including my cousin's wedding last year, a wedding my parents told me was for immediate family only. Yet, there was Lisa, grinning ear to ear with my parents in the background, like she was truly part of the family. Looking through those pictures was gut-wrenching. In some of them, my parents and Lisa looked closer to each other than I have ever felt with them. It was like they had fully replaced me with her in some twisted, emotional sense. This was no longer just about financial support. It was about the love and attention they had willingly given to Lisa while withholding it from me. Later, I had a long heart-to-heart with my sister, Jessica. She feels incredibly guilty for keeping their secret and has decided to distance herself from our parents as well. During our conversation, she shared even more shocking details. It turns out our parents have been pressuring her to take classes at Lisa's studio, constantly talking up the benefits of yoga and how important it is to support family. But it gets worse. They even suggested that Jessica should invest part of her inheritance from our grandparents to help Lisa expand her business. This is money that was meant to secure Jessica's future, not to fund the woman who has caused so much pain in mine and Mike's lives. Jessica has done a lot of self-reflection in the past few days, and now she is just as outraged as I am by our parents' behavior. She confessed that she has always felt like she lived in my shadow growing up, constantly compared to me and never feeling like she measured up. But now, seeing how our parents have treated Lisa, she realizes just how wrong and hurtful their favoritism really is. Jessica admitted she had always felt a strange sense of competition with me growing up, but this crossed a line she never expected. She has now vowed to distance herself from our parents and rethink her relationship with them entirely. Having her by my side means the world to me right now. She is one of the few people who truly understands the depth of this betrayal. Mike, bless his heart, has been nothing but supportive. But I can see that he is struggling with his own complicated emotions, a mix of anger, guilt, and frustration. He has told me several times that he regrets not being more upfront about Lisa's manipulative behavior back when they divorced. He never wanted to stir up trouble, especially since he knew how close my parents and I were. But now he realizes that downplaying Lisa's influence might have unintentionally enabled my parents to grow even closer to her. He is furious that, through no fault of his own, his past marriage is still haunting us and disrupting our present. At one point, Mike even suggested that we think about moving further away, a fresh start, far from all the painful memories tied to this town and everything that has happened here. The idea of moving is not new to us. We have talked about it before. But I can tell that the thought weighs heavily on him. He feels like he has somehow dragged me into a situation that could have been avoided. I keep reminding him that none of this is his fault. My parents' choices were their own, and he could not have prevented any of this. Still, it is hard to see him carrying this guilt on top of everything else. As if things could not get any worse, my parents sent another email this morning. It was a scolding lecture, dripping with condescension and zero accountability. The email was mostly about how disappointed they are in me for what they called my immaturity. They had the audacity to claim that Lisa is more family-oriented than I am, simply because she has made an effort to stay connected with them. But that was not the worst part. They accused me of being jealous of Lisa's business success and even implied that my illness was nothing more than an attempt to gain attention. Reading their email was like hearing from complete strangers. Not a single word of apology. Not even a shred of acknowledgement for how deeply their actions hurt me. Instead, they twisted everything to make it seem like I was the one being unreasonable. They also went on and on about how much they had supported us during our wedding and the early years of our marriage, as if that somehow justified their betrayal. And then, in the ultimate display of arrogance, they demanded I apologize to them before they would even consider speaking with us again. At this point, I am not even sure an apology from them would make a difference anymore. I do not think an apology from them would change anything at this point. Honestly, I am not even sure if I want reconciliation anymore. After reading the email, I forwarded it to Jessica. She called me right away, and after going through it herself, she assured me that cutting them out was the right decision for now. This entire situation feels so surreal. It is like I have lost my parents, even though they are still physically here. I have always had this need to please them, to be the good daughter. But now I am starting to realize that they have never truly seen me as enough. They have put Lisa on a pedestal, treating her like some kind of golden child, while casting me aside at the moment I needed them the most. For the first time in my life, I feel free from that constant pressure to earn their approval. But it is a freedom that comes at an incredibly heavy price. So here we are, Mike and I, trying to rebuild our lives without the support and presence of the people who were supposed to be my family. I do not know what the future holds, but I know I am ready to focus on my health, my marriage, and the people who truly care about me. It is heartbreaking to say goodbye to the illusion of the family I thought I had. But maybe, just maybe, letting go of that illusion will allow me to create something better, a healthier, stronger family for myself and for Mike. This situation has spiraled into something I never could have anticipated. My parents' response to being cut off has been to double down in ways that are honestly disturbing. This entire thing has turned into a nightmare I cannot wake up from. 2 days ago, they crossed a line I never imagined possible. They showed up at my workplace, unannounced, and with Lisa by their side. Apparently, they thought a public confrontation would either force me to hear them out or embarrass me into sweeping everything under the rug. I got called down to the front office during my lunch break, and there they were, my parents and Lisa, standing there claiming they just needed to talk. I could hardly believe their audacity. Thankfully, the school's security protocols worked exactly as they were supposed to. They were stopped at the front office and were not allowed to proceed without my approval. I refused, of course. There was no way I was letting them ambush me like that. My principal and colleagues were incredibly supportive throughout the ordeal. The principal even documented the entire incident and updated my file to ensure that my parents and Lisa would be permanently prohibited from accessing the campus. But that was not the end of it. That evening, Mike and I discovered something even more chilling. Somehow, my parents had given Lisa the new security code to our home. This was the code we had changed not long ago. We had shared the code with my parents for emergencies, but it never even crossed my mind that they would hand it over to her. I found out because our Ring camera sent me an alert about someone at the front door. When I pulled up the footage, my heart dropped. There was Lisa, trying to let herself into our home. She kept insisting to the camera that she was just there to leave a peace offering for me. It was chilling to realize she had access to our house. Mike and I acted immediately. We changed all the security codes and had every single lock in the house replaced that same night. On top of that, we filed a police report to document the attempted entry, even though we decided not to press charges, for now. But the thought of how easily she could have gotten inside if we had not seen the footage in real time was horrifying. Who knows what she might have done or snooped through? That level of intrusion shook us both to the core. As if that was not enough, these events opened the floodgates to even more revelations. Jessica, bless her, took it upon herself to dig deeper into my parents' connection with Lisa. She was determined to figure out just how far this had gone, and what she uncovered left both of us stunned. For the past year, my parents have been quietly paying Lisa's mortgage. Suddenly, a lot of things began to click into place, like why they had cut back on what they originally promised for our wedding, or why they kept reallocating emergency funds they claimed were tight. It all made sense now. They had been sacrificing my well-being to keep Lisa financially afloat. But that was not even the worst part. A mutual friend of ours, someone who still occasionally talks to my parents, reached out with even more disturbing information. According to her, my parents have been spreading lies about me in their social circle, telling everyone that I am mentally unstable. They have been spinning this whole narrative where Lisa swooped in as some kind of hero, stepping up to help the family because I was supposedly incapable of doing so. It hit me like a punch to the gut. This explains so much. Their over-the-top generosity toward Lisa, their cold dismissal of my health struggles, and their relentless support of her business. They have rewritten my life, painting me as someone broken and unreliable, all to justify their actions. Hearing this from a friend who had always respected my parents was devastating. It was like they were trying to erase who I really am just to make themselves look better. But through all of this darkness, there has been a silver lining. The outpouring of support from people who genuinely care about me has been overwhelming in the best way. My colleagues at the school have started a meal train to help ease some of the stress, and Mike's team at work has gone above and beyond for us. They have even offered to cover some of his shifts so he can focus on keeping our home secure and helping us through this chaos. They are also brainstorming ideas to help us figure out further securing our home. Meanwhile, Jessica and her husband have completely cut contact with our parents. It was not an easy decision for them, but they felt it was the only way to truly stand with us. They have been a huge help, assisting us in documenting everything, from the attempted entry at our home to the financial inconsistencies, and even the lies my parents have been spreading about my mental health. If we ever need to take legal action, we want to have all the evidence ready and organized. One moment from the past 2 days really sticks with me. I received a text from one of my closest friends from high school, someone I had not spoken to in a while. She told me she had recently reconnected with my parents and that they had shared some concerns about me. Apparently, they told her I had been erratic and prone to breakdowns, and they suggested she reach out to me to offer support. I was heartbroken. I had to explain the truth to her, sharing parts of what I have been going through and why my parents were acting this way. Thankfully, she believed me. But even so, the damage had already been done. It hit me that my parents were not just spreading their mentally unstable narrative within their close social circle. They were taking it beyond that, reaching out to people from my past and planting seeds of doubt about me. It feels like they are trying to isolate me from anyone who might be in my corner. At this point, I am left wondering just how far they are willing to go. This morning, I spoke with a lawyer to get advice on issuing a formal restraining order. While I am hesitant to escalate things legally, the thought of my parents showing up unannounced again, or using people close to us to get to me, has made me seriously consider it. I never thought it would come to this, but every new incident reinforces the fact that my safety and peace of mind might depend on creating firm legal boundaries. For now, we are trying to take things one day at a time. We keep close friends updated on what is happening and lean on each other for support. Mike has been my rock through all of this, but I can see the toll it is taking on him too. He is just as stressed as I am, if not more. He has started looking into counseling for both of us and has encouraged me to join a support group for people dealing with family estrangement. I think it is a good idea. Maybe it will help me process the overwhelming anger and betrayal I feel, and most importantly, help me stop second-guessing myself. This entire situation has pushed me to my breaking point, but with so many people rallying around us, I am starting to believe that we can get through this. We will make it through this stronger. As for my parents, I honestly do not know what more they could possibly do at this point that would surprise me. After everything that has happened over the last few days, Nothing feels impossible anymore. All I can do is stand my ground, keep moving forward, and focus on building a life without the chaos they have created. Update 3. Thank you to everyone who has been following this ordeal and offering support. So much has happened in just the past few days, and I will try my best to capture everything. It has been a whirlwind, and I apologize if this update feels like a flood of information, but there is no easy way to tell this part of the story. Another shocking discovery came from Jessica. She managed to access some financial records, and what she uncovered left us stunned. It turns out that over the past 3 years, our parents have invested nearly $500,000 in Lisa's business ventures. This is not just about the yoga studio, either. They also funneled money into a failed wellness product line Lisa had been trying to launch, as well as funding a life coaching certification program she apparently wanted to get off the ground. The thought of them pouring that kind of money into Lisa's dreams while refusing to help with my medical expenses is a bitter pill to swallow. But honestly, at this point, it is not even that surprising anymore. Meanwhile, I made a difficult decision to resign from my online tutoring job. It was not an easy call, but after consulting with my doctor, I realized that the additional workload was putting too much strain on my recovery. Mike and I sat down, went through our budget with a fine-tooth comb, and realized we could make it work on just my teaching salary and his income. It will mean making some sacrifices, but it feels worth it just to have the chance to focus on my health. On the brighter side, Mike just received a promotion at work, which came with much better health insurance. This will help us cover my ongoing medical expenses without having to stress about the financial burden. Thanks to the money we have managed to save over the past year, we feel secure enough to take this step and prioritize what really matters. With all of this happening, we also decided it was time for a fresh start. Next month, we will be moving to a new house in a different neighborhood. And while the commute will be a bit longer for both of us, we know this fresh start is necessary. There is just too much of our old life tied up in the house we are currently in. Too many memories of my parents coming over, inserting themselves into our lives, but always on their terms. A new place will hopefully bring the peace and separation we have been desperately needing. The hardest part of all of this has been coming to terms with the fact that my parents' behavior is not really about Lisa at all. She is just a symptom of much deeper issues. This situation has forced me to confront something I have avoided for years. My parents' love has always come with conditions. They have consistently prioritized their own image and their need to appear generous over their children's actual needs. Their inability to truly accept me for who I am has caused damage that I do not know will ever fully heal. Last night, something happened that really drove this point home. Mike and I were out running errands when I got a frantic call from our neighbor. She told me there was a car parked outside our house, and she did not recognize it. It turned out to be my parents. They were sitting in their car, just waiting. Occasionally, they would get out and walk up to our front door. It felt like an ambush. We called the police immediately. Officers came and asked them to leave. Since they technically had not trespassed, no charges were filed, but the incident was documented. It was chilling to realize how far they were willing to go to force some kind of confrontation. As soon as we got home, Mike and I double-checked all the locks, cameras, and security systems. Mike spent the entire evening adding extra security measures and updating the settings on our Ring cameras. We have also notified all of our neighbors, asking them to stay on the lookout for my parents or Lisa. We are trying to stay proactive, but I cannot shake the feeling that they might try something else. Today, Jessica and I had one final, painful conversation about our parents. She has officially cut contact with them. During our conversation, she shared some things they had said when she confronted them about paying Lisa's mortgage and funding her business ventures. They told Jessica that they owed it to Lisa because, according to them, she had helped the family in ways that I supposedly could not. Apparently, they still see me as a liability, a broken daughter who cannot handle stress. The words cut deep. I could not believe the complete lack of empathy they showed. Hearing them belittle my health issues and dismiss my struggles as mere weaknesses made me realize something painfully clear. They do not want to understand me. They just want to control the narrative. And as if that was not enough, something else surfaced today that left me completely floored. A mutual acquaintance reached out to me, saying she had heard some troubling things my parents had been spreading. According to her, my parents were telling people that Mike was taking advantage of me and that I was too blind to see it. They claimed that Mike had been siphoning off my income for his own personal gain. I was stunned. Nothing could be further from the truth. Mike has been my rock, emotionally, physically, and financially, through this entire nightmare. The idea that my parents would stoop so low as to fabricate lies about him just to isolate me even further broke my heart. Mike has done everything in his power to protect me and support me, and now they are trying to tear him down too. In the midst of all this chaos, I have been leaning on my chosen family more than ever. Our close friends, neighbors, and even some of my colleagues have been absolutely incredible. A few of them have offered to help us with the move next month, while others check in regularly to make sure I am okay. They have reminded me of what true family looks like. The kind that supports you, loves you, and does not require you to be anything other than yourself. Jessica and her husband have been especially amazing. They have been helping us document everything, every incident, every inconsistency, every lie. If we ever need to take legal action, we will be ready. Over the past few days, the full gravity of the situation has finally sunk in. I have realized how many years I have wasted trying to earn my parents' approval, trying to live up to their impossible expectations and make myself worthy in their eyes. But now, I can see the truth. No amount of effort would ever be enough for them, because they do not love me. They love the idea of me, the version of me that fits into their perfect little narrative. As painful as that realization is, it is also freeing. For the first time, I am starting to let go of the need to seek validation from people who have never truly seen me for who I am. Mike and I have decided to start counseling together. It is partly to help us process everything that has happened, but also to strengthen our bond for the future. The trauma my parents have inflicted on me will not disappear overnight, but we are committed to healing together. I am also seriously considering joining a support group for people dealing with family estrangement. The pain and loneliness of this experience are heavy, and I know I cannot carry it alone forever. To everyone who has followed this journey, thank you. From the bottom of my heart. Your support has been a beacon of light in what has otherwise been a very dark time. This chapter of our lives has been incredibly painful, but it has also taught us so much about what true love and family really mean. Moving forward, I am going to focus on healing, on creating a life filled with people who genuinely care for me, and on becoming the best version of myself, free from the weight of my parents' expectations. This will probably be the last update I share here, but I wanted to end on a note of gratitude. To anyone else out there struggling with toxic family dynamics, please know that you deserve love and respect without conditions or manipulation. I am learning that lesson the hard way, but I am learning it all the same. Thank you for being a part of this journey.